Shifts in global youth culture. That's a somewhat daunting topic to tackle, especially when I'm trying to generalize about 1.8 billion people, and it could be very easy to make some stupid mistakes. When I was creating this presentation for this talk, I kept misspelling the word shifts. And I definitely don't want to talk about shits in global youth culture. I want to talk about shifts. However, after 15 years of being immersed in global youth culture and having many conversations with youth in more than 40 countries around the world, I want to give it a shot. Hopefully I can work this better than Marco did. There we go. Before we dive in, I really want to be transparent with you guys and tell you about the posture that I have. And that's the conclusions that I want to present are based on statistical data as well as my personal experience. But really, this is one perspective. This is my perspective. Also, this is not meant to be definitive or comprehensive. It's meant to be reflective in nature. And I can't say that these are the greatest or the most important shifts that are taking place, but definitely ones that are significant to me. Before we dive into the specific shifts, I also want to give you a little bit of information about what causes cultural shift. We're going to be talking specifically about the shifts themselves, but there is a why behind the what, and many times these cultural shifts take place because of things like forces at work within society. A government changing from a dictatorship to a democracy can create cultural shifts. Contact between different societies, things like westernization, are producing many shifts across the world, as well as changes in natural environment. Technological advances are a good example of that. Keep these in mind as we talk about three specific global shifts in global youth culture. And these could be some things that we could talk about during the breakout sessions. The first one that I'd like to talk about is a shift in belief. One of the most important aspects of adolescent development is that they're trying to make decisions about what they believe and the values that they will adopt. And what we're seeing as an indicator in this shift in belief is that there's an increase in secularization. And what I mean by secularization, here's a working definition: the process in which religious consciousness, activities, and institutions lose social significance. In other words, religion is losing significance. Let's look at an example from Latin America. I had the opportunity to live and work in youth ministry in the country of Chile for 10 years. And I saw this becoming a big issue, this increase in secularization. From 2000 to 2010, according to the last National Youth Survey, there's been an increase from 31% to over 36% of youth that say, I belong to no religion. And the same thing is happening in the United States. Last month, a report came out called Nuns on the Rise, which came out in the Pew Research, from the Pew Research Center. 34% of millennials, young millennials, those born between 1990 and 1994, claim no religion. Older millennials, in the last 5 years, there's been a 3% increase in older millennials that say, I don't affiliate with any religion. This summer, we had the chance to meet Ani. We had a team of interns from Youth Hope that were working in the city of Velingrad, Bolivia. And Ani is a 10th grader in a school of over 2,000 students. And she's the only Christian. This year, she went to a summer camp and for the first time in her life met people her age that follow Jesus. She lives in a culture where the Orthodox Church is seen as antiquated or irrelevant, and the evangelical church is seen as a cult. I ask you, how would you as a youth worker respond to Annie's situation? Second shift there's also a question that I would like to ask the Christian community in general. is there a decrease in belief in the institution of the church? Or are we talking about a decrease in belief in the existence of God? And I believe that God has a response. He says, Ani, I want to give you hope, and I want you to seek me with all of your heart. The next shift that I'd like to highlight is a shift in voice. And I know that later on in this session, Amanda's going to be talking about specifically this issue. Another one of the most significant needs of an adolescent is to be heard or understood. That hasn't changed and never will change. But one of the things that we're seeing today in global youth culture is that today their voice is being heard like never before. One of the indicators of this is technology. It's very interesting. We talk about it a lot in the United States, technology, internet, social media. But this, like never before, is impacting youth around the world. Do you recognize this name? Mohammed Bouazizi. Ibrahim Monthatha from CNN wrote the following in an article last year. When Mohammed Bouazizi set himself on fire in Tunisia in January, he did not only ignite a series of unpredicted revolts, but also heralded the first appearance of Arab youth on the stage of modern history. Young people in the Arab world who had been undermined and perceived as a development burden on the region became a promise of progress in a new era. Young people suddenly felt as if a new dimension was discovered through which they could mobilize. They finally exercised their rights and, more importantly, said never again to the era of absolute domination and authoritarian regimes. Muhammad's voice was heard loud and clear. And he was credited as being the catalyst for what we know now as the Arab Spring. Wherever I go around the world, no matter what country I'm in, students always come up to me and say, "Can I be your Facebook friend?" In the Philippines, as an example, just in the last 3 years, there's been an increase from 51% to 82% participation in social media among youth. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to sit in front of about 75 different Christian teenagers at an all-girls boarding school in the village of Majimoto, Kenya. And that's where I met Hamidi. What we wanted to do was give these girls a voice. And so we asked them the following question: what challenges do you face as a female Kenyan youth? They were anxious to share. They had overwhelming answers. And here are the few things that they shared with us. It is hard because a girl is powerless and thus useless. We are forced into early marriage, or many of us get pregnant at an early age. We are forced to be circumcised. There's a lack of educational opportunities for young girls. Who are these youth directing their voice to? And I ask you this question: how would you, as a youth worker, respond to Hamidi's voice? I have a question for the Christian community in general, too. What voice does the church give to global youth? And God has a response to this. He says, Hamidi, you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. There's one more shift that I'd like to mention, and that's a shift in perceived capacity. Just as the Kenyan youth shared, global youth want to be seen as having a purpose or being made for something special. And one of the indicators that we see of this in global youth culture is youth unemployment. We are living in the highest rate of youth unemployment in the history since they've been measuring it. BBC recently wrote, high youth unemployment is one of the biggest problems confronting societies around the world. The ILO, or the International Labor Organization, has warned of a scarred generation of young workers. Here's an example from Europe. Last month in the Atlantic was published the statistic that Greece has now eclipsed Spain in youth unemployment. More than 55% of young people in Greece who are seeking a job cannot find one. So what are these youth doing? How are they investing their time?
And where are you from?
My name is
Numplomo. I've been 3 years old. I'm staying in Jingo.
Okay. How do you spend your time?
I just sit idle.
I just sit idly. That's what this young African girl does. This video was filmed just a few weeks ago in Zimbabwe as we visited one of our partner ministries. Let me introduce you to David. David is from Yangon, Myanmar. He's 19 years old. David is from a family of 4 siblings, and only one of them the family was able to send to college. But David loves to repair electronics like cell phones, and so David just graduated from a program that we started there called Opportunities Now, an entrepreneurship school. And he's hoping to get a micro loan and start his own cell phone repair business in downtown Yangon. So let me ask you this: how would you come alongside David if you were his youth worker? And here's a question for the Christian community. What does this lack of perceived capacity say about the value that we place on young people? I think God has a response. He says, David, I have plans to prosper you, and I want to give you a future. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back from captivity.